high-level negotiations and talks that are going on. I mean, it's great that we have such interaction going on in the hall. That's what we're here about. But we have some real interesting presentations and opportunities to hear what's going on down here, too. So I know there will still be people coming in. So, Robert, I'm going to kick this thing off. So, good afternoon. Thank you for joining. I know that the hall is great, and hopefully we'll go visit the exhibitors as soon as this is over. But thankfully, we're all here together now. So, Light Squared sponsored the lunch down there. They are members, and they want to make sure everyone understands they're still around and about, and we're glad to hear that too. And now let's turn to the first speaker, Robert Vrij. And Robert, who is president of Alcatel-Lucent's Americas region. Alcatel-Lucent is also a pinnacle sponsor of the CCA event, and I hope they're enjoying the fruits of that also. It's also a company that has Charles Marsh, who is our new board member on the CCA board. So congratulations to Charles. In his role as Americas region, Robert oversees the company's sales and operations in North America, Central America, and Latin America. Robert also heads Alcatel-Lucent's global strategic alliances. In this capacity, he heads Alcatel-Lucent's critical alliance with HP in the IT and telecommunications markets. In addition, Robert serves on the company's management committee. It's a lot of responsibility. Before joining Alcatel-Lucent, Robert served as president and CEO of OpenWave Systems, leading provider of software applications and infrastructure. And now here to share with us his thoughts this morning on literally how your operators can capitalize on the real power of this potential new network. Robert, please join us.
All right. All right, I like that. So thank you, Steve, and welcome everyone to CCA. It's great to be here in Las Vegas, and maybe I should start off by the one saying all of us are so familiar with, which is what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It's almost like the city of Las Vegas wants you to imagine the possibilities while you're here captive in their city. I'm going to also talk to you this afternoon about imagining the possibilities, but in a different context, obviously in the context of our industry. Because from my point of view, there's just a lot of opportunities available to us. And I'm going to cover several of those opportunities with you over the next 10 or 15 minutes or so, requiring truly for us to imagine the possibilities. So taking a step back, I would certainly like to have you imagine yourself to be a global player on the same footing as everybody else in the industry. Some of you would say, oh, is that far-fetched? Well, I would beg to differ. The best way for me to illustrate that I beg to differ is to actually take an example of a service provider that's halfway around the world. It's Telefonica. And I did not select them from an illustration point of view because of their size or because of the geography that they participate in, or even the technology choices they've made for their network. I've chosen them because they have very deliberately thought very differently about the options they have to serve customers differently. Telefonica took an out-of-the-box approach and basically put together a very interesting new service or offer to their consumer. It's what they call their To Me service. It's a service that basically allows for text messaging, voice messaging, photos, location-type services, but more importantly, for the ability to have phone calls be made from literally any smartphone, literally anywhere around the world, wherever there's a network connection, if that's mobile or Wi-Fi. Clearly, they've looked at voice in a very, very different way. They looked at the generation of a smartphone application, and through that application, in effect, creating a communications hub. So if you think about what they've done to create truly a global type of platform for themselves, I asked a question to you. What would a to-me equivalent service look like for you here in the audience? Clearly, it would give us an opportunity to generate some new customer value, so a new suite of services, much like Telefonica was able to do. But I'm going to challenge you a little bit further to be more specific about an example. What if you offered a to-me equivalent service, the way Telefonica did, to large enterprises in your particular service area? The ability to connect their global workforce, the global workforce of these large enterprises. Think about it for a minute. The ability for the employees of these enterprises, independent of where they are, however many different locations around the world, for them to be connected via your service. From an enterprise point of view, of course, there's lots of points of interest associated with this. Number one is they get an uplift in productivity. Number two is they get an opportunity to reduce cost. But you are the true winners in this scenario. You get to gain a brand new customer. Now, I know you already have these large enterprises in your services area today, as I mentioned. But many of you don't have the desired relationship with those, mostly because they are global. So again, if you took a step back and you would apply a Telefonica type of an approach and offered, and again, be patient with me, but really think out of the box here with me, an over-the-top type of service to all these sites globally, providing your ability to leverage your local relationship and your local community aspect with that enterprise in your services area, but yet provide an end-to-end solution no matter where they are, independent of where they are around the world. This type of service, much like Telefonica, would create a situation where your offerings are no longer geographically constrained. So I'm challenging everyone in the audience today to think very different about the possibilities and what value you can bring to your customers. If you think about, if you roll the next, given what I've just said, if you think about the fact that if your interpretation is that I'm here conveying that you're in the wireless business, again, I would beg to differ. A few months ago was the keynote at TIA where I spoke to your counterparts about the wireless and wireline lines from a network point of view absolutely collapsing. They're disappearing. And why are they disappearing? Because to consumers, these lines are no longer relevant. These distinctions are no longer relevant. Your consumers are looking at the network as a lifeline. It's the ability and essentially to get things done in their life, stay in touch with their loved ones, no matter where they are. In the most oversimplified versions, like the air we breathe, they want it accessible, they want it invisible, and they want it seamless. If you think about it from a consumer point of view, the only time they really think about a network is when it's not working. So what this means from my point of view is that you have the opportunity here in the audience to evolve to a mobile broadband player and embrace it because of the many, many services that are enabled through it. Your customers already know this today. They're getting on the 4G LTE bandwagon. All you really have to do is look at some of the statistics that we see on the device side. In 2010, there were 10 million tablets shipped worldwide. This year, we're going to be approaching, less than 2 years later, closer to 100 million tablets. If you're like me and you're driving through your neighborhood, you basically see people lined up to get the iPhone 5. They sold 5 million of them over a weekend. I know you're seeing this. But relative to tablets, I want to bring it a little bit more closer to home because there's some momentum also in the rural areas. Studies indicate that we're on a path to see a 54% compounded annual growth rate in rural United States for tablet penetration. 54%. Now, I know you're experiencing this already today because you're seeing the data crunch in your network. But I'm here to tell you there is more and more to come. So this isn't actually a time for you to think about being a mobile broadband provider first, rather than a wireless operator. My appeal to you is to really think about broadband first and being a wireless operator second. We already know at a very macro level how important broadband is. It bridges people, it builds economies, and it basically boosts competitiveness. Here's some more facts for you to consider relative to the importance of broadband to us as we're becoming much more so a global world. Just imagine with me that the following statistics I think are very impactful. A 10% increase in mobile broadband penetration would yield 0.8% in per capita gross domestic product growth. Significant. A 10% increase in internet penetration would yield 1.4% per capita of gross domestic product. All supported by a study of the World Bank, so this is real data. Ask you one more time to consider the following: making 100% broadband available in the 7 megahertz band in the 19 U.S. states, with the lowest broadband penetration, it would do the following. It would create and or retain 117,000 jobs. The median income in those 19 states would increase by $1,201. These are real things that are happening. You, as a rural community, rural service provider community in 2009, contributed over $14.5 billion to the state economies in just that year alone, and supported over 70,000 jobs. Very, very significant. But those are some of the macro statistics. I'd actually like to bring it down a level and really start talking about what's the application of this in certain verticals. So let's take this a layer down and look at healthcare as a for instance. Broadband clearly facilitates medical care in unserved and underserved markets. And doing that vis-a-vis remote diagnosis, remote monitoring, and remote treatment. Again, according to Johns Hopkins, the United States is more than 12 months behind the rest of the world in utilizing mobile technology in healthcare. That impacts all of us. Putting this even more so in real context, less than 50% of Americans take medications as they're prescribed by their physicians. Less than 50% of us do. However, studies show that patients would be 34% more likely to take medications with a connected pill bottle cap. These are things that can make a real difference to us in the healthcare segment. A similar idea, specifically from a vertical point of view, in education. Students without broadband absolutely lack the information necessary to compete with their connected peers. Studies reflect that 80% of parents say that the internet is their sole source to help their kids with schoolwork. 41% of students say email and messaging is their way to contact their fellow classmates and their teachers about the schoolwork that's due. 71% of teens say that the internet is their primary source to complete school projects. Last one is a much more pleasing statistic for us, is that now 26 states have virtual schools. Virtual schools. It's increasing education possibility and access for folks in the rural areas. Very, very impactful. But it's not just at the macroeconomic layers as shared earlier, the vertical segments, also the very most senior governmental officials recognize the importance of broadband. If we just rewind the clock to 2011, where President Obama in the State of the Union address talked about the possibility within 5 years to deploy high-speed broadband wireless coverage, to 98% of Americans. So it's being noticed at all tables, anywhere of high power and esteem. This basically for customers, for your customers, means they're looking for your best broadband service available from folks like yourself. They need it, they depend it, their livelihood depends on it. The statistics and data I shared with you support that. If their livelihood depends on it, and in turn, what does it mean for you? That access is actually your success. Access is undoubtedly your success. It's the ability for your customers in your rural areas that you support to be able to depend on you to provide that broadband capability, much like they would if they were in a large metropolitan area anywhere else in the United States. So having said all of that, heard all this information from you, Robert, how do I get ahead of the curve? Well, it's not just about more CapEx investment. Even though companies like Alcatel-Lucent and others here, we'd love to hear that answer. But it's not all about CapEx investment. We're clearly seeing lots of strategies, lots of varieties, lots of experimentation going on. You see it in new data, plan pricing, family sharing. You see it in the commoditization of text and voice, both just seismic shifts in our industry. And what you're seeing is voice no longer being considered truly a service, but a feature of a service. When I look back, there's actually many parallels to what we saw in the long-distance market. Those companies prevailed then, and we will prevail now as well. But new thinking is required. New approaches are required. We can no longer, in my opinion, continue to think of ourselves in measurements of ARPU, but rather things such as ARPA. We're seeing these new data plans priced over a large range of devices already. What does it do? It just confirms that networks are more than just the sums of its bits. So start thinking yourself today as a mobile broadband provider. It's all about the value that you can bring to your customers and the new innovation and revenue opportunities that this can drive for you. We've already seen some great examples of competitive carriers reinventing themselves as mobile broadband providers. Many examples right here in the room. C-Spire just went live with LTE. West Central Wireless launched mobile broadband vis-a-vis a hosted core. Penasco Valley Telecommunications, or PVT, in New Mexico, can offer video monitoring of remote locations for oil and gas, as well as agricultural companies. And Big River Telephone, deploying LTE, utilizing NTIA stimulus funds to be able to roll out, I believe, in 6 markets or more in the state of Missouri. So how can you capitalize on the mobile broadband opportunity? The first and most obvious ways, of course, is investment. But as I said earlier, it's not just about CapEx. You can get 4G LTE mobile broadband in several ways. I'm going to give you several examples on how this can be accomplished with less capital intensity. First, think about partnership. If I look around this room, clearly CCA is your greatest asset. For all of you to work together, join forces in order to compete, stay relevant across all the different ecosystems. You already recognize that the embracement of change is a very positive step in changing the way the naming from RCA to CCA. I congratulate you on it because to me, it underscores the importance of your role and that its ability to compete with the largest carriers. It's all about delivering the best service, if it's rural, regional, or nationwide. And it all happens by joining forces with those of you here in the room, but also joining forces with other industry ecosystems to remain competitive. One of those industry ecosystems is clearly devices. So I want to start there first. You can provide, you can have benefit as a rural operator to monetize as tablets find their way into the homes, into the classrooms, and into the workplace. You can benefit by providing mobile broadband there. The competitive carriers can certainly, as you're doing today through the CCA buying consortium, leverage your overall volume to try to have that leverage point be as high as possible to make sure that the economics of the devices are as favorable to you as possible. It's a great service, a free service for everybody that's a member of CCA. I'm sure everybody knows that, but it's a great, great service that's delivered vis-a-vis this association. Alcatel-Lucent also recognizes its role that it can play here. So we're on our own independently negotiating volume buys for fixed nomadic LTE devices so that purchase can be made direct but at low quantities. We're also dealing directly with chips and handset manufacturers to make sure that we have robust but economical handsets available so we can, in fact, break the largest barrier for entry, which is the device side. Another less capital-intensive way of capitalizing on mobile broadband or broadband is a hosted business model. Peer competitive carrier partnerships. Basically what it means is network sharing. Sharing of an enhanced packet core and EPC. For a rural operator, hosting certainly is not their sole means for income, but a significant opportunity to reduce CapEx. If you look at it from a greenfield point of view, working yourself into this kind of business model is really optimum. Provide low cost of capital up front, the ability to quickly get services deployed and offer services to your relevant customer base to get the revenue line going, and basically get your feet wet as quickly as possible. So there's a very, very pointed opportunity there for the greenfield guys. But also partnering with hosts on regional state bases with existing interconnect state transport systems also can lower the cost of these hosted business models that I was referencing. A third example, again, speaks to industry ecosystems. There's one area where I encourage all of you to look going forward is in what we call our NG Connect program. It's a really unique program that was put together. We're one of the founding members that puts together media, advertisers, puts together application developers, retailers, consumer electronics companies, our competitors that never would have worked together before previously. By bringing them together in one community, the cooperation's been amazing. Their sole purpose is to generate new services concepts for companies such as yourself, but they're putting the network right smack in the middle of the value chain. Recently, we had a brainstorming session with your peers to try to ask the question, what type of services, what kind of offers should be generated in a brainstorming kind of fashion? And I want to share some of those ideas with you today. First, the notion was enterprises, and the first one, enterprises have a real need for customized applications. So the point came up from an idea point generation point of view to imagine custom app stores for businesses in your markets. It would be all about partnership and packaged applications delivered on your infrastructure, both LTE as well as on cloud. Real example of that came out of that brainstorming was for the oil and gas industry. It's an application that specifically addressed theft prevention for equipment that was being left in really remote areas. In that same vein, that application would help address finding day labor for that oil and gas industry application. Examples of real sticky niches for you, truly creating a localized service, making you competitive vis-a-vis the knowledge that you have of your local customer in the community that you both work and live in. Another example that came out of this brainstorming session was the interactive digital signage application. in a most simplified way is connecting your customers to product experts, giving access to expertise without actually having to travel. The thought and idea generation came from there. If you could imagine a kiosk, so to speak, at a farm store. Farmers could connect to universities and to government extension agencies about the use of seeds or fertilizers. Also, as a byproduct, connect farmers with equipment vendors or service technicians. A third that came out of it was actually in the healthcare vertical. What's talked about is the imagination of a cloud-based medical service that would allow patients to meet remotely with doctors and with experts. Again, imagine patients going to a kiosk in their local drugstore or grocery store to see a doctor. Medical information will be collected and transmitted through cloud-based medical records database, all attached to patient through secure identification that's available through your network. Several of these examples I just mentioned are in the idea stage, but NG Connect's specialty is to take ideas and possibilities and make them reality. The two examples I cited relative to the interactive digital signage and remote healthcare are based on services concepts that we have prototypes for today and are being tested. Truly the power of NG Connect is to really incubate an idea and find a way to commercialize that in a matter of weeks or months versus years. It helps you as carriers, as operators, to look at potential new lines of business, creating new business models without losing focus on your core business. Finally, let's consider partnerships with utilities as well as with government. State-owned fiber consortiums like Indatel Group, 27 statewide fiber networks. Present partnership opportunities are there for you from an LTE wireless network point of view, especially if it can offer scale. And think about it in the context of mobile backhaul. That is a sweet spot area that you could help address in that particular application. Of course, other opportunities include utilities, local governments, co-ops, and so forth. The idea behind it is truly to reduce CapEx by sharing costs. So one more is actually partnering with the federal government from a spectrum point of view. As you know, the federal government reserved 20 megahertz of spectrum in the 700 range for national public safety networks. The government is absolutely looking for partners to build and operate this network. I can't think of anybody better than you to do that in the most cost-effective way. In my opinion, it does represent one of those once-in-a-lifetime opportunities to gain access to spectrum versus more traditional ways, like auctions, which are timely and costly, as you know. For me, these are all kinds of ideas that are truly representative of broader thinking. So it's critical, especially that you consider the impact of broadband in your market. A couple of more data points, because it's big. Broadband, independent of the kind of the macro views that I gave, the vertical views, some real interesting data points happening right there in the markets you serve, starting with 50% of rural households have broadband, 57% versus 70% in urban. 9% of rural residents don't have broadband because it's not available. Common rural peak downstreams speeds we found between 1.5 and 3 megabits per second. 60% of rural subscribers saw a maximum downstream of 3 megabits per second or less. 71% of rural subscribers saw downstream slower than 4 megabytes per second, which, as you know, is the target of the Connected America Fund. And lastly, 90% fell below the Connected America Fund upstream target of 1 megabit per second. So if we look at it, this puts rural America squarely, and many of your customers, at potential in the economic educational, and competitive disadvantage. So what is the opportunity for you in all of this? Clearly, it's broader thinking of what you offer, namely mobile broadband, and here's why. Just a very recent study from Georgetown University looked at, and this is what they cited, the rural broadband gap being closed through faster adoption of wireless broadband in rural areas versus urban areas. Number one. The study also concluded that wireless broadband is the most efficient path to universal broadband access in rural areas. So knowing all of this, it's clear that we're operating in an exciting time. From my point of view, this is your time. It's the opportunity to reinvent yourself and create value to your customers. And clearly, as I stated earlier in the very beginning, I believe you can do this on a global stage. When an equivalent level of thinking is the TUMI application that I referenced, and for you, the large enterprise opportunity, in my opinion, parallels what Telefonica did in their markets. Your true value is in the community and the relationships. Nobody is more intimate with their customers than the folks here in their group, in this audience. You need to take advantage of that very clearly. The ability to capitalize on your community and universities and schools and businesses is, bar none, best assets that are available to you. If you provide them the mobile broadband they need, I think they're going to respond overwhelmingly positively. I understand, I recognize that there are several challenges to accomplish this, and I don't want to underscore those. But from my point of view, in working together, specifically with each other, and through CCA, no doubt in my mind you will be successful. Also challenging you to think again beyond your borders. And remember, as I started my talk about what stays in Vegas, happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas, same parallel. Remember that what happens at CCA doesn't stay at CCA. It's up to you and yourself to create the global business opportunity that I think is available to you. Thank you for listening to me.
I told Robert that we're being live streamed, so I hope that the policymakers down at the FCC, especially those with the Wireline Competition Bureau, heard what he had to say. I thought it was a great message for DC also. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Now, next joining us is probably one of these enablers, Dave Hagan, President and CEO of Boingo Wireless. Dave has been with Boingo, I think, for the past 11 years, where he's been responsible for both strategic decisions and day-to-day operations. He brings with him more than 25 years of executive experience in the internet and telecommunications industry. Some of his brands that he's worked for and with include Ticketmaster, CitySearch, Match.com, Sprint, and United Telecom. He is an old telecom head, right? Thank you. As many of you know by now, CCA has launched a Wi-Fi offload program in conjunction with Boingo. And together we've created, I think, a very aggressive solution for all of our carriers to take advantage of. And we're excited to share this solution, and I hope you can talk with Brad Blanken with CCA to learn more about this innovative approach for all our carriers. And now here to share with us his insights on mobile data growth, trends, how small cell technology can be a solution to mobile data growth and network congestion. And we have the answers here from Boingo, Dave Hagan. So glad you can join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everyone. Just to cover a little bit of background, so I actually started back in 1984-85 in Kansas City, where I grew up, with United Telephone, Midwest Group. So in those days, this was pre-wireless, safe to say, And I remember traveling from Chaska, Minnesota to Tyler, Texas, Junction City, Kansas, and Jeff City, Missouri. So that was our territory, 5 or 7 states, I can't remember now. So that's where I cut my teeth in telecom, and remember and still have stayed in touch with some of the smartest people that I've ever worked with in my now 30 plus years in the industry. So I sort of understand the issues from those days, what you go through, and knowing that you're rural and smaller doesn't mean that you're absolutely not as capable and as smart as the Tier 1 folks. So I'm really excited to share with you some of the things that we've got going on at Boingo in partnership with the CCA. So let me start with market dynamics, and hopefully some of this is new, but I'm sure not all of it, but there's a lot going on, a lot of change going on. And then I'll talk about Boingo and then specifically about the relationship that we have with the CCA. So there's this confluence of trends that are happening, and it starts with the number of Wi-Fi enabled and mobile broadband enabled devices that are in the market today. And really it was launched with the iPhone back in 2007. You know, the growth has been dramatic. I think we're now in North America over 50% of consumers have a smartphone, and ultimately I think, you know, the people that are carrying around flip phones are going to be in the vast minority in the not too distant future. So every device is going to be a smartphone or at least a mobile consumer device of some type. And what that has created is this incredible creative market for application development right now called apps. We used to call it software, now we call them apps. Thank you, Steve Jobs. And so the developer community has clearly embraced these devices. All sorts of incredible apps are now at our fingertips. And of course, what is that? That's really content, that's data, and that's being sucked through these cellular and broadband networks, right? Which creates a significant problem. So you've got demand for mobile data growing at 18x. This is a Cisco number. And then you've got on the supply side, as the Tier 1 carriers are upgrading to LTE 4G, it's about a 4x increase in capacity depending on how it's deployed in sectorization and such. So you see there's clearly a capacity crunch that's going on. I'm going to talk more about that. The cool thing is consumers get it, right? Consumers know that they can connect to Wi-Fi networks either when they need to or when it's the only thing they can connect to. And so this is no longer a mystery. We've been at it for a long time, but the consumer is clearly keeping up. In fact, in many cases, I think they're ahead of us. So a really simple slide, but I think a very compelling slide. So this shows the percentage of data consumption by type of network by device. On the left, smartphones, right, mobile handsets. So it's about 60-40, about 60% of data being consumed over the cellular network, about 40% on the Wi-Fi network. Now, I've seen this number, these percentages as high as 80% on Wi-Fi. If you think about where you hang out with your smart device, home, office, right, indoors, right, primarily there's going to be a Wi-Fi network there in addition to, obviously, the cloud coverage of the cell network. The tablet market is even more extreme. Right? Over 90% of data consumed on tablets is going over a Wi-Fi network. So big change there. And again, tablets didn't exist 2 years ago, right? So major sea of change. So what does this mean? So there is a major network topology shift that's happening. Cellular networks, tower companies, right? Monolithic cell towers were built in the early days and continue to get built. But the real estate available for those is pretty difficult to get, as you all know. And from a coverage perspective, those made a lot of sense. When what we were trying to do is make sure that everyone everywhere at least could get a connection to make a phone call, right? Coverage was really the only thing that mattered in the early days. And of course, Verizon had a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar campaign running about Can You Hear Me Now? It wasn't all that long ago. You don't see Can You Hear Me Now anymore. That's gone, right? Because, you know, increasingly we're not using these things as voice devices. We're using them as data devices, right? So you've got 65% of places where people are consuming data are indoors. So as I just said, right, home, office, when you're traveling, airports, hotels, right, you're indoors more than you're outside. And so what we're moving to is from a coverage model to a density model. where and we're solving a simple math problem, right? More and more people with these devices that are consuming more and more bandwidth through each of these devices. We've got to get the cell technology, we've got to get the bandwidth closer to consumption. And that simply means small cell technology. And obviously, Wi-Fi is one of the leading technologies in that space, and I'll talk more about that. And so one key stat takeaway from this is one video data customer equals 100 voice customers. Right? So again, if anyone with teenage children will realize that they do way more video on their smartphone than anything else. And again, that's equal to 100 people doing voice phone calls. So again, big capacity challenges. So what are the tier 1 carriers doing? We've got a couple quotes here from AT&T and Verizon. You've seen the change in their plans, right? They're throttling, in some cases throttling down throughput. They're metering. They've moved to family plans, right? Add multiple devices, all of which just puts more traffic on the cellular network. And so what's happening is, in addition to the network topology change, the industry is actually coming together and embracing different ways to handle this problem. Boingo's been very involved over the last few years with the trend, the system standard bodies like WBA, like the Wi-Fi Alliance, where we're working with the cellular operators to come to terms with how do we make the transition from a Wi-Fi network to a cellular network and back much easier, much cleaner, much simpler. So you may have heard about Hotspot 2.0, Passpoint. These are all standards that are being created. And it used to be the Wi-Fi industry participants like Boingo and many others coming together at conventions and trying to set these standards. But it didn't really matter, right? Because we were just setting them amongst themselves, and it wasn't that relevant. Now when we go to these events, it's AT&T, it's British Telecom, it's Korea Telecom, right? It's the major telcos on a global basis who are pushing for these integration standards. And so that's a very good thing. So what that means is that the heavy lifting of getting traffic from a cellular network onto a Wi-Fi network and back in pretty seamless fashion is going to get baked into the hardware itself. It'll be in the network instead of at a software layer the way that we've had to do it up to this point. So that's all good news for the industry. And so why Wi-Fi versus other small cell technologies? It's pretty simple. Extremely high performance, right? More bandwidth than any other solution. Incredibly inexpensive to deploy. And generally in the technology world, if you've got the best performance and the cheapest price point, you've got a good opportunity at winning. And then obviously ubiquitous, right? Not everything has a cellular chip inside, but literally every device that's coming to market and will continue to come to market is going to have a Wi-Fi chip inside. So clearly ubiquitous. All right, so that's the market. Let me talk a little bit more now specifically about Boingo. As Steve said, we've been around since 2001. We were really early to the market. It was called 802.11b then. Wi-Fi hadn't even been coined. Is the sort of the handle for the industry. And what we started out doing is developing a software that would make it easy to move from hotspot to hotspot. We understood that it was unlicensed spectrum. We knew that there would be a very disparate, kind of unorganized grassroots market of Wi-Fi networks, and we wanted to be the company that stitched that all together and made it easy for consumers to get connected. So that's what we started on. And then we started building and operating Wi-Fi networks ourselves in the mid-decade, 2005, 2006. We focused on large venues where people went with laptops. Again, this is pre-smartphone. So where did people go with laptops? Airports, hotels, convention centers. So we're the largest airport Wi-Fi provider in the world by far. Over 40% of passengers going through a North American airport are going through a Boingo airport-operated airport. And in Europe, about 25%. So now what we've done is we've moved into categories that make sense that are being driven by smartphones and tablets. So now it really opens up the type of venues that make sense for Wi-Fi. So shopping malls, retailers, quick service restaurants, really restaurants of all kind. What do we all do now when we go into a restaurant? You see everybody, their smartphone goes right out on the table next to them, right? Which, we would have thought that was blasphemy 5 years ago, right? But that's now the consumer behavior. And so all of these venues where people are using smartphones are going to have a network congestion problem. And the venue wants to have a digital relationship with their shoppers or consumers of their product and service, and Wi-Fi allows them a way to do that. So we really focused on building out Wi-Fi networks and partnering with others in the world. And our whole strategy to the market is neutral host. And what I mean by neutral host is we are friends with everyone in the industry. This is clearly an ecosystem business. You can't get wireless rights like the Tier 1 folks have and build out nationwide networks in Wi-Fi. It is truly venue by venue. Right? So we're very much in an ecosystem world. And so as a neutral host operator, that means we partner with everyone. So we partner with the venue, we partner with the other Wi-Fi operators, we partner with the carriers, we partner with OEMs, right, to all get traffic onto these Wi-Fi networks. So this concept of neutral host is a large reason why that Boingo is successful in the market. So this is probably a real eye strain, but so this just shows where we're the manager and operator of Wi-Fi networks. The number here says 400. But we just signed a deal with Wendy's. We're rolling out 6,000 of their locations. So we've concentrated on these very large venues like airports and shopping malls. We're now expanding that to all sorts of different types of locations. So obviously that number of actual hotspots is going to grow dramatically. But even with 400 locations, we reach 1.5 billion people. So that's a turnstile count. So on an annual basis, 1.5 billion people go through those locations. So pretty dramatic reach. We add to that this partnering with Wi-Fi operators around the world. So we have 125 of these partnerships, everybody from T-Mobile to British Telecom to IBAN to companies you've probably never heard of because they're smaller Wi-Fi operators not aligned with a specific carrier. So we manage and operate locations. That's where Boingo deploys the capital and we run the network. And then we partner for the rest of the network. Think of that as roaming from a cellular perspective. We have a commercial agreement with these operators, and we have a technology integration so that when a Boingo customer or a Boingo wholesale partner, like what CCA members can be, when they go into one of those locations, just one username and one password to get on all the networks. So when you add those together, that brings us about 780,000 locations in total. The other cool thing that's going on in technology is this concept called crowdsourcing. And what that means, and we're enabling that through our software, is that when we have a user of our software not connecting to a Boingo network, not connecting to one of our partner networks, but just getting connected to maybe an open free network that's out there, we actually gather that information, and if the customer has been successful getting onto that network, we then bring that into our larger network and put that as part of our mapping function. So consumers can see, oh, there's a hotspot down the street. I realize it's not verified by Boingo, but someone has been connected there. Probably a good shot that I can get on that network. So network aggregation and this crowdsourcing element or capability is going to grow our network from nearly 800,000 locations today to literally millions of locations over the next couple of years. So very fragmented business, industry, right, ecosystem. So our whole goal is make it simple. And we do that through our billing platform and software platform. Right? So we take all the chaos, operating systems, different network signals, different operators, security protocols, and we enable that through our software and billing platform to make it easy for the consumer to move from one network to another, all with one account. Whether it's a Boingo branded account like we're showing here, or it's a private label solution like what we do with many of our carrier partners. Okay, so Steve and the team at CCA came to us, I guess, several months ago now. We've had several calls and worked on something that we can put together for CCA members, and I think it's just it's a brilliant idea. So our challenge in dealing with smaller carriers is we tend to have economics that are geared towards large carriers. And through CCA, they're helping us aggregate your demand so that we can do a customized solution that until this point, frankly, we could only do for the big Tier 1 carriers. So it's really, think about it as its ability to help us scale down our solution so that we can do it through CCA and get many of you, of the members, onto a private label solution. So this means it's not Boingo branded. We'll do it your logo to your customers. Boingo's not even, unless you want us to be, but we don't have to be. We don't even have to have a branded solution in the picture. Right? It can be offering a Wi-Fi solution to your customers. It can be a laptop solution. It can be a tablet solution. It could be a truly seamless smartphone offload solution. So the way that we've crafted the partnership, we have all of those things available to you, just like what we do with Verizon and Korea Telecom and Skype and other carriers on a global basis. So I'm very excited about that. We've tried to make it as sort of simple as possible for you to implement. So that's, that's hopefully where we can spend most of our time as follow-up. Luis Serrano, raise your hand, Luis. So he's our SVP of Business Development. If you want to talk to us here at the show or just trade business cards, find Luis, find me. And we'd also be interested if you have locations that you'd like to get Wi-Fi networks built out in. We're happy to do that too. Again, from my rural telco roots, I realize that you have incredible relationships in the local market. And so if you have partners, venues that want to get Wi-Fi networks built and you don't feel like you can do it yourselves, we would love to help you with that. Again, we can private label it. We can do it under the Boingo brand. Very flexible. So with that, I'll end it by appreciate your time today and look forward to doing business with you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so very much, Dave. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and also thank you for being a strategic partner with CCA. As you can see, Dave and I both are really excited about the possibilities here, and I hope and wish and encourage all of our carrier members to take a look at it. I think you'll find it's another benefit of being a member of the association. And now we're going to move to the Annual Achievement Awards, and I know a lot of people are interested in these. It's one of the more pleasant activities for the opening session. We get to recognize those people that are quite unusual in their contributions. So it's our chance to recognize those members who have gone beyond, above and beyond in the last year. And now we want to announce this year's honorees. And I'll ask each of you to come up to receive your award. We'll pose for a photo, and then if you'll just remain on stage over here until we get the rest of the recipients or winners announced, then we can get a group photo. And first we'll begin with the Distinguished Leadership Award, which is given to the outgoing chairman of the board in recognition of extraordinary service for leadership. And do we have Mr. Okay. Huh? Oh, okay, yeah. Lucy's got to make sure we get the right awards here. You got them? Okay. So in recognition of our chairman of the board, it's become a tradition to recognize their leadership. And for that extraordinary award, we'd like to recognize our chairman of the board, Hugh Mina, president and CEO of C Spire. Hugh? Oh, here he is. I was getting worried there, Hugh. I couldn't see you. Thank you. Thank you. Here, let's come over here and we'll get a picture. Lucy would probably look a lot better in this picture.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Hugh. Okay. Now, the next leader. Okay. Now we can present the Outstanding Achievement Award. And just a little bit on this award. This award is given to a carrier member, an individual who during the previous year has made extraordinary contributions to both the industry and to CCA. And this year the award goes to, drum roll, John F. Smith, Director of Supply Chain Operations, Viera Wireless. John around here? Oh, yes, we got him. I figured he'd be working real hard on the buying consortium. He spent a lot of time, effort, and energy on it. Hey, John, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll get a picture of this. You go tell Frank. He should have been here for the, he should have been here for the awards. Thanks to his efforts, we've grown the buying consortium to at least 12 now, and we got several others. And I just can't thank John enough for all the hard work and dedication that he's put into this. Now, the next award, as you may know, is the Nico Hamlet Associate Member of the Year Award. And this next award, we're going to ask Ron Whaley, is Mr. Ron? Yes, Ron Whaley, who is our chairman of our Associate Member Committee, to give the award and give a little background on the Nico Hamlet Award. Ron.
Thanks, Steve. Good afternoon. Yeah. This award was renamed in 2009 It's actually 3 years ago that it seemed like yesterday that we actually flew Mary and her 3 daughters into town as we renamed the award from, at the time, the Associate Member of the Year Award to then the Nico Hamlet Associate Member of the Year Award in honor of the late Nico Hamlet. Many of you know the name or personally knew Nico. Nico was an executive with American Roamer. Now the company is actually named Mosaic Solutions. Nico is basically a pillar in the wireless industry, a good friend and loyal friend to many of us in the CCA family. We're pleased to present it every year. Actually, we present this award to the associate member who has in the past year made outstanding contributions that significantly benefited our industry in general and specifically the CCA. This year's recipient of the 2012 CCA Nico Hamlet Associate Member of the Year Award goes to Patty Dominic, my Jersey girl.
Here, here.
So, Patty, let me come on up, Patty. Patty stands out for her dedicated involvement with the CCA over the past year. She actually serves on the Associate Membership Committee. She helped me this past year in the nomination committee for the Associate Board members. She's also on the Events Committee, where her work over the past year has contributed to events like this. She's worked to recruit speakers, breakout sessions, and really has stepped up to the plate when others have not. I think it's safe to say, for anyone who has actually had the pleasure of working with Patty, that her willingness to lend a hand and her outgoing personality are her trademark. Please help me in congratulating Patty Dominic.
Hey.
Very happy.
Get you a picture of this. Here you go.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Great job. Thanks, Ron. I really appreciate it. Thanks so very much. And now we're going to turn to the Outstanding Service Award. We present this annually to honor and recognition of a person or his or her company who has hit three or four categories. One, outstanding service to the community, willingness to go beyond the call of duty, and for reflecting positively on the wireless industry, CCA, and everything we stand for here. So this award is presented to a carrier member and an associate member. And so first we'll go to the carrier member. This year we had 2 winners. There were a number of outstanding nominees. I just wish everyone knew how much these carriers give back to the community. And actually one of the things we're going to do is take the compilation, compile all these outstanding opportunities of charitable support, and we're going to put them together, and we're going to use them and let people on Capitol Hill and the rest of the Washington, D.C. policy people know how important this group is. But this one is special because there were a lot of good submissions this year, and I'm pleased to present the first award to Johnny Johnson, President and CEO of Next Tech Wireless. Johnny, come on up. Since 2005, Johnny has raised money for the Big Brothers Big Sisters Bowl for Kids in Ellis County, Kansas. And this really has an impact. It aims to provide positive and long-lasting impact on the children of his community. And Johnny was named the top fundraiser, and I think cumulatively over the past several years, it has raised over $70,000 personally for this particular event. And it is in thanks and recognition and congratulations, Johnny.
Thank you, Steve.
Hey, very good. Here, let's get you a picture here, okay? All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Let's see. Okay, now we go to the next, the second award winner, which, like I say, it was sort of a tie, and everyone was outstanding. And this winner goes to another carrier member, is Cellular One of East Central Illinois. And for the company's work on the homeless veterans program, is Colleen here or anybody from the East Central Illinois team? Yes, Colleen. Cellular One partnered with Operation Comedy to bring 5 comedy shows to its area in I think it's Ilana, Veterans Administration, homeless veterans programs. Operation Comedy produced these events nationally touring events. They provide music, entertainment, and they brought together the troops and their families and communities for a night of education. And Cellular One was one of the participants that made this happen and brought over 3,000 free tickets and provided untold number of families an opportunity to have a wonderful night and have an educational opportunity to understand more about the Homeless Veterans Program. And for that, we are very grateful for Cellular One of East Illinois, and couldn't have a better representative accepting the award. Colleen, congrats. Here, I'll get you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Okay. Now, now we're going to the winner of the associate member, winner of the Outstanding Service Award. And this year, that winner is Quality One Wireless. I'm not sure where to begin here. I hope John, anyone from his team from Quality One in the audience? Yeah, yes, I think we got a couple. Sure where to begin here because they've done, I think, 11 charitable events since June. And the causes that they supported range from cystic fibrosis, the Family Support Foundation, U.S. For Mental Illness, U.S. Academic Decathlon, the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and they've raised money for to help build schools in Ohio, $25,000 for that, and also a $45,000 event they did here in their home area for Down Syndrome Foundation. Just numerous community service outreach opportunities, and they've done a great job. So members of the Quality One team, congratulations. Ileana, come on up here. Good to see you. Here, let's come over here. We'll get you. Yeah, see, you're camera shy here. What is it? Here. Oh, very good. Now, let's see. We have one more. Yes, the Industry Innovation Award. And this award is presented annually to an individual or a company that has made an outstanding, innovative contribution to the wireless industry. Whether through technology development or advanced marketing techniques or something altogether different, this award honors a creative, forward-looking achievement that is noteworthy throughout the industry. And this year, it is also presented to a carrier and an associate member. And this year, the carrier member winner is Kevin Kleinsmith, Director of Engineering at Union Wireless. Kevin? There we go. As Kevin comes up, I want to say that over the past year, Kevin has led deployment of new voice and data services across some of the most rural, most difficult parts to reach in the United States. His work has found innovative solutions to significant network hurdles, solar wind-powered cows in the region of Colorado where commercial power is unavailable, devising systems, innovative systems for backhaul to use satellite and low-powered microwave. And I mean, it was like if you needed an inventive fix, Kevin was there. And the reviewing committee was most impressed with the uniqueness and the approach to serve their customers. And I think they've increased their footprint by over 30% in the past couple of years with a truly top-class 3G network. So he also spends a lot of his time at state and local level issues. So for Kevin, we really appreciate it, and it's a pleasure to present you this award. Hey, Kevin, come here. Let's get you an award here. Thanks. All right. Okay. Now, we have one more award here, the Associate Member Award. Let me see. Yes. Our Associate Member Award winner is, for Industry Innovation Award, is Mavenir Systems. Mavenir Systems is one of the leading innovators in mobile infrastructure solutions for LTE operators. This company was responsible for the industry's first, and they're a CCA member, first Metro PCS VoLTE system. It's M1, the convergence platform, to support the world's first commercially available voice LTE. So this is a very important technology for our industry. We've heard a lot about it today. You'll hear a lot about it tomorrow and more, but this is an outstanding service to us all, and we're very delighted that we can present Mavenir, a new CCA member, with this award. It's going to be critical to all of our members. So thank you for the innovation. I think we have Madden here to represent Mavenir. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. Here we go. Oh, very good. All right. Can we get a picture of all these outstanding people together here? And maybe we can, maybe we can get in just a little, it's a little closer here. Here we go. Okay. Can you get everybody? Oh, okay. I've got to get in. So here as well. Well, okay. One more. We gotta get this on the internet right now. So, thank you, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, Kevin, Johnny. Great job, John. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hugh, it's been a pleasure. Great. Patty, good job. Good job. Eliana, good job. Great. Okay. Thanks so much. All right. Okay. Before we finish up here, let me remind everyone you've got some evaluation forms sitting around on your chairs or on the table going out. Please fill them out. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. We use this in our events committee. We read them. Believe me, we compile them or we read them. We try to improve every activity that we do. So we'll have a short break, and then we encourage everyone to begin the breakout sessions, I think, which begin at 2:30, and then again the second sessions will begin at 3:45. And following the next breakout sessions at the 3:45, we'll be back in the exhibit hall for the exhibit receptions 4:45 to 7 p.m. And then we'd also like to remind everybody tonight we're going to have CCA's 20th birthday bash at XS Nightclub. Both Quality One Wireless and OSG Billing Services are hosting the event. And Ron Whaley promises it's going to be a great evening. And I think the drinks are on the OSG and Quality One. So look forward to seeing you tonight. And thank you and have a great afternoon.
Winter's night.